Okay, great. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Hello to all the heart-led leaders out there that might be watching. This is an interview today with a colleague of mine named Danny Burke. Danny Burke is a Hannah Somatic educator who has been practicing a whole foods, plant-based lifestyle for over 20 years. Today, we're going to talk about some of the long-term effects of brain and gut healing practices. We're also going to explore the idea of radiant health that begins in you and impacts others, right? Super interesting idea. He's also going to share with you some of his insights about what it really takes to transition into this way of living. So welcome, Danny. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. I'm very excited to hear some of your insights today. And would you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field of work, how you got into Hannah Somatics?
Thank you for inviting me. And I am a Hannah Somatic educator, and I fully certified in 2013. And I actually started my practice after the first module in 2010, August. And so it's been a nice road. This is what I was intended to do on this earth. You know, when you finally find it, it's nice. I found out about Hannah Somatic education because of my pain. I was a workout person, and I totally overworked out into all kinds of patterns of tension. And I didn't know it because I didn't even see that I was crooked and twisted and all these other things, that I was training to run marathons, and I kept getting injured and couldn't figure it out until I heard about Hannah Somatics. There was a person in Baton Rouge who knew my mom, who knew about it, and I went and talked to her. And I immediately decided to go to Novato for my training. And, you know, it's a 3-year process, going there twice a year for 9 days of training and then working in between. It was exciting, it was fun, and I do this for a living now.
Right. And did you get the result of pain relief? Do you live with any pain or tension in your body right now?
Well, you know, you have an occasional ache and pain, but it's a warning sign. It's a positive thing. It tells you, hey, pay attention. And in the past, I used to ignore it, but now I know how to move in a very specific way where I can get instant relief, and I can catch it right in the very beginning when it only needs a minor adjustment.
Right.
So,
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So you don't live with any tension. How old are you, by the way? You just had a birthday, didn't you?
yeah, Saturday I turned 59. So,
Hey.
you know, we all get to be able to prove that aging is a myth. And so I'm out on a mission to prove that myth for myself
Yeah. Well,
and to
you look
anybody
great.
else who observes.
You look great for 59, and you're not living with tension and pain in your body. I mean, like you said, it shows up, but you know what to do about it now, which is super empowering, right?
Exactly. And I don't feel worried about aging. I understand that there's a way to age gracefully and successfully, and I see the path. I don't have to just think of myself as withering away and turning into an old person and not being too happy about that. You know, I heard a lot of people say aging sucks, but I just don't think it does. I think we get better as we go on. We can improve and we can take control.
Awesome. I'm with you on that. That's a wonderful, inspiring message to be sharing with people. It's hopeful, right? It's optimistic. It's looking to the future with a sense of possibility. I love that. So thank you. Let's see. Next on I've got my notes here so I don't lose track. But
Sure.
oh, so going back to we talked a little about Hannah Somatics. Let's go back to the food stuff. You know, that's definitely impacted the way that you're aging, you know, and also your general health. Can you tell us a little bit about what your diet was like 20 years ago before you started this transition, and a little bit about the process and what really drew you to change things in the way that you were eating?
So while I was exercising, at that point in time, it was the P90X era. And so it was harder, longer, faster workouts. And eventually that got me into trouble. But at the same time, I was also trying to improve my nutrition to help my workouts become better. And I got the idea, my biggest influence was my mom. And my mom in her 40s was not a healthy person.
Mm.
Um, she would get different forms of respiratory infections. She would get all kinds of, she had allergies. She took shots for years, and you're not even supposed to take those shots that long. And she suffered in many ways. And then she decided to make a change. And it
Mm.
started with vitamins, but then I saw her throwing away the vitamins. And she says, I've got a juicer now. And so she started juicing, and I watched my mom and dad juice 3 times a day, and they got healthier and better. But then they started eating better. They started eating whole foods. They started studying and understanding nutrition. And eventually, good news came out about plant-based whole food diets. And that's what she selected. And that's what I decided to go along with her on the journey. Whole
Oh,
food
wow.
plant-based diets are the way to go, at least
Nice.
for us.
I love that you're already touching here on what this idea of radiant health. So it started with your parents, it started in your mother, and she started making certain choices and creating a certain level of health in her body, and that impacted you. You could see the change that she was creating, and that inspired you. Is that correct?
Look, when you see a family member who over time improves, you should take note. Don't dismiss them just because they're your mother or your sister or brother. Family's the hardest on each other sometimes. But my mom is now 87, and she's not aging like her mom did and her grandmother did. She doesn't take any medications. She gets around just fine, and she's doing well. Her mom had 10 years of severe Alzheimer's, dementia,
Mm.
and then her grandmother did, my great grandmother, same thing. And so she was determined to exercise, to eat well, to move, and to not end up with the same fate. And it looks like
Mm.
she's doing a lot better than,
Yeah.
and she wasn't destined to do the same thing that her mom and her grandmother did. And so that made a big impact and still does. And also, guess what? She's now been doing Hannah Somatics for 12 years too.
Wow,
I
yeah,
think
yeah. So
she's
then you created that for her. That started in you and then radiated out to everybody else too.
and my dad is in the same boat. They're both turning 87 in a few months and doing well. They're independent. They're living at home still. They're in Baton Rouge, and that's about an hour away from where I live in Covington, Louisiana. So I think it's a big success story that is still writing out the script.
Yeah, wow. And you guys all live in Louisiana, so the culture down there is not really focused on this style of eating or this way of living. Is it hard? What challenges are there especially when you're first transitioning to a way of eating that's not really conventional, that's not really like everybody else? Do you have something to share with us about that?
Yeah, fortunately, we took our time in transitioning. You don't have to make decisions overnight and change rapidly. It's hard to make changes right away. And my wife was on board with me as well. And so I have
Mm.
to say, she's a fantastic cook, and that really helps. I'm not the person who does a lot of cooking in my house. And so fortunately, I've been taken care of by my wife really well. And what we enjoyed was every New Year, we thought of one thing that we would work to improve.
Mm.
So I
I
can
like that. Just
remember
one thing.
one thing. Like
Yeah.
one year we decided no more processed foods,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and processed foods are pretty easy to pick out. You got to start getting good at reading the label on the groceries when you go buy
Right.
things, and ideally you want to eat a food that's only one ingredient, like a carrot or an apple, you know? So fruits and vegetables are the staple, but they're not the entire diet, as you
Mm.
know. So we figured out how to have a satisfying diet that was rich in fruits, vegetables, and other whole foods that are also plants.
Right. Yeah. So, and it sounds like it was a gradual shift, right? Like you said, you didn't make changes overnight. You didn't do this like, some people do crash diets where they do a month where they just, eat a really extreme way. And it's really hard when you do that. It's not sustainable. So what you're talking about is a more sustainable approach to gradually, step by step making changes, but kind of heading in the direction of, more and more whole plant nourishing foods that are gonna help you live longer.
Right. And so I'd say cutting out processed foods and sugary foods would be a good first thing that would immediately jumpstart you to a nice change.
Right. That's great
If,
because you're not even talking about like go vegan right now. You're like saying just, the processed foods and sugar is like a place to start, right? Like, and
you
then,
know,
and then things
if you
slowly
drink
follow.
if you drink soft drinks, if you just cut that out right there,
Right.
that would be a huge change for anybody.
Mm.
Um, so many things that you can cut out, and think about uh, desserts and cakes with all the holidays and all the birthdays of everybody you know. It's not moderation if you just eat one piece at all those birthday celebrations and holidays. You're beyond moderation.
Right, right. Well, and this is, this goes towards, the issue of your gut health, so Hannah Somatic Education has addressed brain health, and I'd love to hear you say a little bit about that in a moment. But then changing your diet is really impacting your gut health and your microflora. And when you're eating a lot of foods that are high in sugar, separate from fiber, like not the sugar of an apple, but the processed sugar in foods like cakes, this is affecting the balance of bacteria in your gut, and it's going to actually make you crave those things more, and it's going to put your body in a state of inflammation. And I feel like there's a lot more awareness of the impact of sugar now than there was, say, 10 years ago. But it's a process, right? And building a healthy gut is something that you don't, again, do overnight. It's every meal, every day there's a little change or a little improvement that you make.
Right. And I love what you're mentioning there. It basically sounds to me like knowledge is the power. When you understand that just in one apple, that there's actually around 10 to 12,000 phytochemicals in one apple. And all of those, we don't even know what they all do, but it's part of nature's signature, which is recognized by your gut, by your body, and how it's absorbed. That's just perfect. That's how we evolved. And that's why I like the fact that my mom threw away her vitamins, because one vitamin is only one little tiny fraction of a whole food. And so
Right,
your
right.
body doesn't even really recognize it. They don't get absorbed. They don't improve. In fact, they can have somewhat of a pharmaceutical effect. And
Mm,
so
mhm.
you have to be careful with supplements. And so I found, as I learned more and more, I was using whole food as my source of all the vitamins and minerals and all the good things that come with food, as opposed to going to a health food store and seeing all the different bottles to be taking, you know?
Right, right. Concentration of, one or two specific nutrients versus the proportionate nutrient composition of a fruit or a vegetable that has all of these interacting, nutrients that your body actually really needs, versus just one thing. And overabundance of one thing can be a problem. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. You
So
need all 10,000 in tiny little doses of them. You don't need a massive dose of one thing.
yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah, you need all of those 10,000 nutrients in
And that's
phyto
only one fruit. Just think if you're eating 10 to 12 servings of different colored fruits and
and
vegetables,
vegetables,
the
right? Well,
rainbow
going to
diet,
this
right?
this idea of antioxidants, we see that as like a, almost like a little sticker, on the side of your whatever your, I don't know, those drinks that they say, oh, antioxidants in the drink. It's like antioxidants are in all of our fruits and vegetables. And the darker that the darker the fruit and the vegetable, the more antioxidants. And this is just really a fun little fact. I don't know if you knew this, but I was loving this. I was at a local farm and they had a sign up because it was pick your own veggies. And they said, the leaves, like the leaves that have been chewed on by bugs, because the plant is still alive, the plant has created more antioxidants to heal those little bite marks. So the ones that have bite marks in them are actually more antioxidants. So it's like people throw
Wow.
that out because it's like, ooh, the bug chewed on the plant. It's like, just rinse that off and you're getting even more, of nature's anti-cancer remedies right there, right?
I love it. I'm going to start picking out all the bad looking produce at the store instead of the good
Yeah.
looking ones.
Well, it was good if the bug was eating it. They have good taste. They're not going to be eating something that's not nutritious, right? They know what they're doing. So getting back to the brain health, and Hannah Somatic Education. So you've been working with collegiate athletes, you've been working with equestrians, you've even been working with pregnant women and pregnancy professionals. And tell me about, like, if you can, like, how does the work that we do in Hannah Somatic Education, this brain work, really help people? Like, what does it do that is so impactful?
Well, it's really hard to make a blanket statement. That's the $1 million question, is how does this somatics work? But it's really activating the inside conscious connection to your body.
Mm,
And by doing that, you can consciously sense your muscles. You feel more confident. It soothes your emotions. So it's a very specific type of movement, which is fun, easy to do. It's got an interesting name. Should I say it? It's called pandiculation. And if you don't know what pandiculation is, well, this is something that is really should be wider known. But basically it's switching off of autopilot
mm,
while you're moving into an area where you consciously feel the sensations coming up from your sensory neurons into your upper cortex. And then you allow your body to relax in a long lasting way.
mm.
And instead of stretching 2 or 3 times a day, and if you ever miss a weekend, you're just right back where you started from. Well, now you can make long lasting changes that affect your brain, and they affect every parameter of health inside you. So it's not really just about relaxing muscles, it's about
Mm.
improving the entire body and improving your performance.
Right.
So
Wow. Yeah.
with that being said, you probably, if you're just listening to me, I probably didn't help you learn what somatics is. It's something that you have to experience for yourself to totally understand it.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Well, it's really unlike anything else that's out there in terms of physical education or movement practice. It's really quite unique. And I tell this to my clients, and I think you just described a bit of it before, is that when you first start out with it, because it's so different than anything you've ever done, you actually don't have the neural connections to, like, understand fully what you're doing. And it can take, either multiple repetitions throughout the course of a session, or it can take multiple sessions, or even, days and days of practice for your nervous system to go, oh, this is what we're doing. Oh, and, like, really kind of buy in to that your brain can relax your muscles, that you can actually make these connections to different parts of your body, right, to actually be able to do this. So I like to describe to my clients that it's really a skill that you're developing.
yes.
It's a skill that you develop and you get better with over time. You get better at doing it.
So you can make the correlation to your nutrition and to your brain health, in that you are, with this skill that you develop, creating thousands upon hundreds of thousands of neural connections that make it easier and easier for you to sense and feel and move.
Mm,
And that's why over time you become so confident, and I would call it an internal sense of peace that comes over you, knowing that when, if you were to fall and trip on something, you could lie down there and start moving and figure out if this is serious or not, or do I need to call for help? And you would not be nervous about that. First of all, you're much less likely to fall too.
Right. You're more coordinated. You're more
But
balanced.
in my mind, what somatics really does is it improves you in all different ways. And it's really about freedom to be able to do whatever you're interested in. For example, after I learned somatics, I finally was able to run a marathon.
Really? You didn't
Now,
run one before when you were Mr. Workout Guy?
I was trying to, but I kept getting hurt.
Oh, okay. I
And
see what you
and I kept blaming my shoes for hurting my ankles, and then finally what I learned with somatics was I needed better feet. And it doesn't matter what shoe you wear. I hate to say it, if you're a shoe salesman out there, you're probably overselling your shoes.
Right,
People
right.
need
Well, it's the foot that's inside the shoe, right? That is doing the movement,
exactly,
doing the
and
existing,
it's
right?
the whole person,
Mm. It's the
how
foot in
well.
relation to the rest of the body. It's not just a foot ever by itself. Our feet are connected to our hips, to our, spine, to every other part of our body.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
so
we're looking at the whole food and we're looking at the whole person.
so when I'm working with an athlete, we begin to build the athletic brain. What are the
Mm.
connections, neural connections you need to make to be the best in your sport? And then how do we get past these moments where you've already trained as long as hard as you can and you're still not good enough? Well,
Mm.
this gets you over those plateaus. And then sometimes, like me, I was overtraining and my performance was decreasing. So people will sometimes fight not improving enough by working out harder, and they make
Mm.
it worse. And
Right.
so all of these things can be completely changed within a few sessions, and you begin to rebuild the neural connections for your sport. Same thing with for women who, when they want to have children and deliver safely and effectively, and maybe they choose not to want to have a C-section or get an epidural, they might choose natural childbirth. These things all become way more possible when you are somatically intelligent and you've
Mm.
built the brain that's ready for that, which I think is the most impressive athletic event ever, is childbirth. And now you could probably tell me more about that since you have a baby, but I will never know exactly what that's like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and um, with these people that you've been working with, and some of them are members of your family, what's the impact that you've seen, post pregnancy for the women and their babies?
Well, my both of my daughter-in-laws did lots of somatics and they ate really well, and they chose to get educated about their birth. They did a birthing class that was 12 weeks long, and the husbands, my sons, were the coaches. And so they were very involved in the birth process. And when that happens, and then both the dad is doing somatics, the mom is doing somatics, they're ready and resilient, and they
Mm.
have knowledge. Knowledge is power. That their births went much smoother than a lot of their friends of their ages who are now having babies. They didn't require a C-section. They were able to go natural, both of them. They were also able to think things out along the way, because you never know what's going to happen when you're in the hospital or if you're having a home birth or whatever. Both of these were hospital births, but the babies were very healthy when they were born. They had very good alertness within their first minute, and 5 minutes later they were breathing well, their skin was pink. um, all these things that get measured in the very beginning. And now one of them is now about 16 months old. Another one is only 3 months. But they have incredible movement. They're teaching
Mm.
themselves. We're observing them go through the learning phases of human beings go through, and it's just fascinating. But they also, especially my 16-month-old, they eat a wild amount of different foods, and we're not forcing them to do it. We just put it in front of her, and she eats avocados and fruits and vegetables and healthy pastas and rice, and everything that we eat, she eats. And so I think that's part of her senses being alive, how alert she is. She knows that that's good, and she likes it, and she eats it.
Right.
We also see her walking with ease and being fast and doing how she developed with her fingers and hands, And, I'm not saying that she's going to be in the Olympics and that sort of thing because of somatics, but she's healthy and happy and developing well. And that's really the goal.
Right. I mean, that's what I honestly, I think what everybody really wants for their children, and what many people want for themselves is to be well in their bodies and to live, healthy lives and help the other people around them that they love and care for also do well and avoid disease and be coordinated and living and loving being in their bodies. I mean, I think that's a common goal that human beings want for each other and for themselves. And it's really inspiring to hear about how you have helped create that in your family. Really beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. Going back to Hannah Somatic Education, and how do you think that Hannah Somatic Education would help somebody if they were trying to make lifestyle shifts? You already talked about how it increases performance, but what kind of things does Hannah Somatics offer for people who are looking to make changes in their lives, who are looking to run marathons or eat a more whole foods, plant-based diet? How does Hannah Somatics help them?
Well, it helps them how they react to stress. And since you have a technique and the knowledge and a skill, you don't worry about things like you used to that come at you and you used to freak out, because you don't freak out anymore. You can respond in a way where you can meet the stress and eliminate it. So stress in this day and age comes from so many sources. You have to have a plan to eliminate stress in your life. And I don't know of anything better than Hannah Somatic Education to do that. It does it. Stress comes in a wave, and instead of allowing it to turn into these contractions in our bodies, we can eliminate it. But it goes beyond that. It's also with how your emotions react to stress. It's also how all of your stress, because of that ability to be relaxed and not have to worry about things coming in that will bother you, you can make informed decisions in a relaxed style. And things don't bother you like they used to. If somebody says, oh, being vegan, you're not going to get enough protein, you already know, you've understood this issue is really a myth that's being spread, kind of like fake news gets spread. And I don't have to get into an argument about that. I already know what's going on there. I just say, well, if that's what you believe, that's all right.
Right.
But as long as you eat a varied, nutritional, a whole lots of different variety of foods, you get more than enough protein in your diet if you decide not to eat any animal protein. So, but
right. So it sounds like you kind of let other people have their opinions and their views. There's a sense of confidence in yourself through this more physically embodied experience, that you don't feel the need to like control what other people are doing, because you know that you're in control of what's happening in your body.
Yeah, and it's not that you have to be like a know-it-all. I'm not a know-it-all. I just know there are certain truths that I know, and I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't even know that I don't know. And so you have to be humble also. But at the same time, a lot of these issues that I hear about nowadays, I've already researched it and studied it 20 years ago. I don't even think about those things anymore. And So now there's that little boy. What's his name?
His name is Jonathan, and he's 3.5, and yeah, he doesn't totally understand like me being in, a meeting yet, but he's
Right.
getting there. He's getting to understand. But yeah, he's definitely exposed to all of this that we've been talking about, Hannah somatics and eating in a healing way, healing your gut. So
So,
thank you
in
so
my
much.
observations working with women who are pregnant is that the session that they get is also a session for their baby while the baby's in the
Mm,
womb. And the babies are doing movements along with you.
right.
And
Oh yeah.
the nervous system is so connected with mom and baby that you can't you having the soothing uh, nervous system relaxation that pandiculation and sessions bring you is huge for the baby in
Mm.
the womb. And the benefit, and that leads to those benefits during the birth and after. So it's really an amazing process to witness, and you got to experience it, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there was all kinds of, life circumstances that, affected my pregnancy, and so I definitely had a lot of, fortitude, emotional and physical fortitude in my body to handle it, and I did. But I'm always so curious, if I had like a more ideal, environment, that I would have been able to experience exactly what you're talking about on more of I guess, a memorable level. Because this is the thing, life is stressful and things happen that are out of our control, but really what we're
Yeah,
looking at, how can we bounce back, how can we realign and come back to center, and moving off center is part of that process, right? We get pulled by life in one direction in our bodies, we get contracted, and how quickly do we have the tools to return to equilibrium, to return to homeostasis, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the
so it's
other
been,
question, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Well, the other question that I was going to ask you is, what words of wisdom do you have for people who are just starting out on this journey, or maybe someone who's been trying to move in this direction but is struggling with it?
Well, I would say just pick out one thing at a time, like we talked
Mm.
about earlier, and then read books that give you really good knowledge. One of my favorite all-time books is this one here called The China Study. So I don't know if you've ever read this book, but T. Colin Campbell is one of the guys who was involved in the Forks Over Knives movie. You
Mm.
know, I would watch that movie for sure because that's a great way to introduce yourself to some of the concepts and see people out there who have been doing it. And then this is a more scientific book, but it's really got a lot of great information in there. Um, Something that you can count on is certain books that are well done and scientific. I think that's why I'm attracted to somatics. It's also scientific and about the neuroscience, but it's something that is proven and surefire and it works. And eating a rainbow diet and eating a vegan diet, if you choose to go there, or vegetarian, or whatever level you're at, even if you still eat meat, you can still have a lot of healthy foods mixed in, and have a healthy life. So all of those things you get to decide, and it's an exciting journey. But to keep eating the same things over and over and over, but a lot of people only eat 9 or 10 different foods.
Right.
That's not enough variety. You need the colors of the rainbow. You need the variety. You need the plants. And I love that what you call it, the radiance. Your
Yes.
what are you calling your program?
Well, my program is called Free Your Soma, and it's 90 days to freedom of movement and radiant health. So it is really actually a half a year program, but it's 90 days intensive where we're focusing on really releasing and repatterning your gut and your brain during that 90-day period. And then the following 3 months are support. It's a support system because I think that people can make really deep changes in 90 days, but they're still going to need that support, really for the rest of their lives. I mean, I'm hoping you know, this to me feels like a movement. And as I'm getting more wonderful people like you involved, and, you know, more people out there doing this similar or parallel work, it's like there is already a movement out there. And I'm just part of that, bringing that in and saying, hey, you know, we can self-heal, we can age gracefully, we can live with radiant health that not only, you know, helps us, but helps the world, helps everybody that we come in contact with, because we're experiencing that confidence and safety within ourselves. We're experiencing that level of health that is enormous, is radiant. So that's kind
Right.
of the concept that I'm
So
working with right now.
I'm
And
excited about your program, and I'm envisioning in the future lots of people who have changed their lives with you and are kind of like me. Like I feel like I've pre-lived your program.
you have really, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to interview you, is it's like, oh, here's somebody who's actually been doing this, who's been living this lifestyle, and his whole family has been impacted, you know, and you've been impacting each other, like we talked about before. So it's
So
really quite exciting
so
because the potential.
we are not designed to just wither up and into old age, and we're designed to improve as we go. And I really think I saw a study in the New England Journal of Medicine that said the most productive 3 decades in your life, and this was researched over people who were successful in, I forget how they measured what productive is, but they're not necessarily talking about money.
Right.
Okay. But your 60s are the #1 most productive. So I'm just hitting my prime at 59. All right. Guess what the #2 most productive decade? It's the 70s.
Wow.
#3 is the 50s. So
Okay.
if you start now at your age, and you have, wow, the future is going to be amazing. And so I hope lots of people choose to follow your program, and I think they will. It's the only
Thank
one I
you.
know that combines somatics with the nutrition on this level. And I think it's such a great combination. Um,
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I've been experiencing this radiant health that I'm, you know, pointing people to. This is something I've been experiencing in my body for the last year. And it's like, now that I'm experiencing this and I have this sense of freedom and confidence in myself, I just want everybody to have this. I want it to be available to everyone, you know, and the truth is I can't, you know, work with everyone, but I can share with everyone. You know, I can share with everyone. I can help one person just by telling a little bit of my story, or by introducing them to a somatic practice, you know, or by sharing some helpful information. Like, this is just what I want for everyone to be experiencing, this level of radiance in their body, and this feeling of freedom that I have never known before. This is new for me. This is a new experience of life that I am propelled by, that I am
yeah.
moving towards the future with. And I want this for every human being. I think this should be a human right to have this level
So
of
I
health.
think the word that I would call it, the between these two programs of, you could own, if some people are focused only on nutrition, and that some people are only focused on the somatics, but there's a synergy
Mhm.
between the two where each one makes the other one better. And if you were, say, for example, to not have a diet of excellence, you're creating free radicals inside your body, which creates the inflammation, which takes
Right.
away a little bit of the results you're getting from your anasomatic education. And that's because of the way the body communicates with all the different various parts and all the different systems. And so why not have them all work together and improve everything, you know? That's what I love about it.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm so pleased you were able to come on and speak with me today, and share some of your knowledge and your insights. And it's just been so inspiring to learn about how you've really been living this. You've been living this unusual kind of lifestyle, and we're letting people know that it exists, that you can make these kinds of changes, and that you can have and create radiant health in your body that is lifelong, that is, you know, for everyone, not just for you, but for your students, your clients, your parents, your children, anyone who comes in contact with you will experience the health that you are creating in your body when you start to heal your gut and your brain and your connection to those two very important systems in your body that run everything.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So
really
thank you.
can't add anything to that. You just summed it up for me.
Thank you. Well, thank you again so much for sharing all this knowledge. And, for people who watch the replay, if you want to know more about Danny's work, his website, I'll have you say that right now.
Okay, so I'd suggest you start with my Life Somatics Facebook page. So I'm on
Okay.
there. Just join me there. My phone number is there. You can reach me there, and my website is there also. So since we're all on Facebook, I figured that'd be the easiest way to find me.
Yeah, sure, sure. So Life Somatics. And, for any athletes out there that are watching and you're interested, Danny does do Zoom and has a lot of experience with using somatic education to help increase performance, and could walk you through all different kinds of new, exciting information about what's possible in your athletic career or, hobby. So thank you again. And I hope you have a really beautiful day. Happy late birthday.
Thank you. So big 60 next year. But
Yeah, that's
hey,
when
that's
things will
my
really
most
get going
productive
for you.
decade. All right.
All right.
Bye, everybody. It was nice talking to you, everybody, and you too, Amy. And good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much.